The story begins in a world where 9 races exist, and among them, humans were seen as the weakest and were branded as trash for their low levels. A young human boy named Light decides to leave his parents and siblings behind and sets out on a journey, dreaming of becoming a great adventurer who could one day give his family a luxurious life. His travels eventually bring him to a city where his race earns him nothing but contempt, and he ends up getting scolded by a beastman for no reason other than being a human. Shrugging it off, Light heads to the Adventurers Guild to begin his new life and registers as an F-class starter. When the receptionist asks if he has any decent skills to speak of, he proudly declares his ability as the unlimited Gacha. Curious, the receptionist watches as he demonstrates it by pressing the Gacha button, drawing a card that reveals nothing more than a fork. With confidence, he says release, only for a bent fork to appear in his hand, leaving the lady unimpressed as she wonders how he plans to defeat monsters with cutlery. Light insists that his skill has more to it, but his next few draws only make things worse, producing a rotten apple and a piece of bread covered by fungus. The receptionist gets disappointed and confirms that F-Class is indeed the perfect fit for him, and directs him toward the job board where the easiest quests are posted. Light feels disappointed, and his expression alone makes the receptionist realize that he probably doesn't even know how to read. She helps him find some simple, heavy, underpaid jobs, and even though the pay is trash, our hero accepts them with excitement. He ends up doing all kinds of heavy labor, earning just enough to afford a cheap night at the inn. That night, he prays he might finally draw something edible from his Gacha for his dinner, unlike the rotten fruit he pulled earlier at the guild. Unfortunately, luck doesn't seem to favor him, as he bumps into a group of beastmen on the street who demand compensation and steal what little money he has left. When Light tries to protest, he's easily thrown aside and left on the ground, bruised and humiliated. Just as he struggles to stand, a group of adventurers arrives and the elf offers him her hand, fearing more harm when his dirty hands accidentally brush against an elf. Light begs for mercy, but the elf surprises him by hugging him gently and assuring him he has nothing to fear. The group introduces itself as the Concord of Tribes, a party representing all 9 races. One by one, they share their names, and until the wolf guy Garu points out that the only thing they lack is a human member. The dark elf Xion explains that their goal is to erase the barriers of racial discrimination and bring unity among the races. The Dragonkin Drago then extends his hand toward Light, inviting him to join them, and the broke down on his luck boy eagerly accepts what feels like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As their story continues, Light finds himself surrounded by vicious, snake-like monsters ready to tear him apart. But just as one of them is about to strike, Drago steps in and saves him. The elf Sasha then warns him to stay sharp, explaining that they are in one of the most dangerous places in the world, known as the Abyss. Light apologizes while Sasha treats his wounds and gets teased by the others for playing mommy. Trying to lift his spirits, Drago tells the boy that no one in their group could make a better cup of tea than him. The Conqueror tribe then heads deeper into the Abyss. Suddenly, their expressions harden, and the warmth that once surrounded Light completely disappears. Oblivious to the shift in atmosphere, he cheerfully starts making arrangements for tea. But as he begins to set out the mugs, Drago calmly tells him that they decided to kick him out of the party. Light freezes, unable to believe what he just heard. Garu smirks and mocks him, asking if he's gone deaf. When Light stammers in confusion, the beastman sneers and says they have no further use for him. Even Sasha and Xion, who had once treated him kindly, looked away in disgust, calling humans pathetic and weak. The dwarf grunts that Light was nothing but dead weight, and it's better to get rid of him now. Still trying to understand, Light asks if this is some kind of cruel joke since they were so kind to him before. Garu laughs and explains that they only needed him to join their ranks for a reason. It turns out that because of his so-called gift, the higher-ups had suspected that Light might be a master, so they kept him under watch. But now that they confirm his unlimited Gacha is nothing but useless junk, the higher-ups have ruled that he's irrelevant and not worth keeping around. All the talk about masters and higher-ups leaves the poor boy completely confused. Garu and the others finally decide it's time to get rid of him for good since they've accidentally spilled more information than they should have. They tell him they were ordered to eliminate him, and Garu gets excited at the thought of hunting him down. With a sharp swipe, Garu scratches the boy, making him scream and run for his life. But before he can get too far, Sasha shoots an arrow straight through his leg, sending him crashing to the ground. They laugh at his cries while Garu kicks the boy again and again as he moans in pain. The others tell the wolf dude to make it look like monsters were behind the murder. As Garu raises his claws to strike, the boy desperately crawls through the dirt, clinging to life. He pleads not to die, and just as his hand touches the ground, a teleportation trap activates. Drago yells at Garu to murder him before he disappears, but the boy vanishes at the very last moment. When he opens his eyes again, he realizes he's alive. Relief hits him, though he knows that it is only temporary. As the second a monster shows up, it would be game over for him. Lying there, he starts crying as memories of his family flood his mind. He wonders how things ended up this way, how the party he trusted could betray him so easily. For a brief moment, he remembers how happy he used to be, only to realize that everything he believed in was nothing but a lie. He now pictures them as demons who had deceived him, pretending to be allies, only to take his life in the end. Burning with anger, he swears to get revenge and escape the fate that has been forced upon him. Gathering the last of his strength, he pushes himself up, but before he can even take a breath, a monstrous beast appears beside him and freezes him in fear. The creature's level is over 1,000, something he has only heard about in stories, and in that moment, he realizes that he must have been transported to the deepest part of the abyss. Fear strikes him hard, but his will to live pushes through, and in sheer desperation, he decides to roll his gacha one last time, hoping for a miracle. For the first time, luck smiles upon him. The skill begins to go crazy, and a powerful maid emerges from the card he summons. Without hesitation, she faces the towering hound beast and dismisses it as nothing more than a puppy before destroying it with a flick of her hand. The monster's corpse vanishes into thin air, and she turns toward Light, gracefully kneeling before him to pledge her loyalty. She extends her hand, releasing a soft light that heals the wounds on his face. Then, with a gentle voice, she apologizes for acting without permission, explaining that she cannot bear to see her master's skin marked by injury. Within moments, every cut and bruise on his body vanishes, leaving Light stunned as he asks why he no longer feels any pain. She smiles and addresses him as her lord, humbly asking for his name. When he introduces himself as Light, the maid blushes faintly and tells him how noble and magnificent his name sounds. She then swears on her maid's honor to live, serve, and die for her master. Our boy remains confused, trying to make sense of what is happening, and asks who she is. The maid bows and politely asks for permission to introduce herself. She reveals her name as May, an ever-seeking maid of level 9,999. She explains that she is a super ultra-rare card drawn forth by his gacha gift. With unwavering devotion, she pledges her loyalty once more, promising to stay by his side forever, declaring that not even death would be able to separate them. Light, still in disbelief, insists that this must be a dream, arguing that his gift can only produce junk and that someone as incredible as her shouldn't have come from it. May gently asks him to call her by her name, and when he does, she blushes softly before requesting his permission to appraise his unlimited gacha. Light, surprised, asks if she truly possesses the appraisal skill, and May replies that it is merely one of the many abilities she holds. With his permission, she activates the skill and discovers that her master is surrounded by several powerful layers of protection. After finishing her appraisal, she looks at him and calmly explains that his gift is not the useless junk he believed it to be. She tells him that his skill indeed allows unlimited use, but the rank and probability of the cards he draws depend heavily on the surrounding mana density. She lists the card ranks ranging from extra super rare to rare and even error cards, the faulty ones responsible for the rotten apples he pulled out, and got himself embarrassed. Seeing his confusion, May patiently explains that while the air everywhere contains mana, the density of mana on the surface is nearly zero, which makes it almost impossible for him to summon something powerful like her. However, in the lowest level of the abyss, the mana density is extremely high, which greatly increases his chances and explains her appearance. Impressed by this, she praises her master, saying he must have already known about this and ventured deep into the dungeon on purpose. Light stays silent for a moment before revealing the harsh truth. As he begins to tell this story, tears fill his eyes. He explains how his party betrayed him, slashed him, and shot an arrow at him, all while mocking his so-called useless gift. He recalls their laughter and how they enjoyed his screams as if they were music to their ears. He drops to his knees as he recounts being deceived into joining their party with promises of a world without discrimination and grips the arrow lodged in his leg tightly. He vows he will never forgive them, and May moves in to hug her master. She declares that she can bring divine judgment upon those traitors, promising to deliver their heads to him within the hour, and she only awaits his command. But Light shakes his head. May blinks, mistaking this action for mercy until he slowly rises to his feet and begins to walk in the opposite direction. His voice breaks the quiet as he says that he doesn't want revenge done for him. He wants to grow stronger to face them himself and make them pay with his own hands. Hearing this, May bows deeply as she swears once more on her maid's honor to serve, protect, and support him in his new mission. Her words spark a faint smile on her master's weary face. With a new mission to get revenge, Light presses the button of his unlimited gacha again, and under the immense mana density of the abyss, the device goes berserk again. Many years have passed since then, and Light is now a lord served by an entire army of maids at his command in his kingdom at the bottom of the abyss. All of the maids watching him walk majestically simp over their lords so intensely that May is deeply annoyed by them. But Light tells her to relax because they are simply showing their love for him. Next, he walks through the market in his town and addresses all of the citizens' worries, and he realizes his system needs to be changed soon because the population is growing too large. He asks May to update him on what the 4 elites, his 4 most skilled subjects, are up to. She explains that the cat girl Oyuki is diligently doing her scout duty and making maps of the upper floors of the abyss. Light is happy to hear that and trusts that the forests around the abyss, filled with dangerous monsters, will not be a problem for the talented beast tamer. May warns him that it is hard to trust the fickle little cat, but Light thinks she is perfect, just the way she is, and then asks about Ellie's progress. May confirms that Ellie is hard at work developing the magic he needs for his plan, making him worry she might overwork herself again. Then he asks about Nazuna, and May reports that their strongest melee fighter is patrolling the castle like usual before she goes quiet because she has nothing good to report. Light tells her that Nazuna's small brain and carefree attitude are exactly what make her so charming. Back at the castle, Light is casually greeted by Jack, the ripped blonde man who is fourth among his elites. May is not happy hearing him address their lord so casually and scolds him, but Light tells her he is fine with it because Jack is like a big brother to him. After that, he heads to the training hall with Jack, where he begins the spar by rushing straight at him and landing a solid hook to his abs of steel. Jack compliments him on the powerful strike and says that it would have killed anyone, but Jack the Iron Barricade is not just anyone. Then Jack goes all out, and the two have a blast fighting each other without holding back at all. Meanwhile, in the castle, Nazuna walks her merry way through the corridors, patrolling as usual, when the maid quartet suddenly greets her and asks what she is doing. Nazuna proudly says she is on a super important mission from their lord, and they shower her with flattering compliments. After buttering her up, they politely request her to patrol a top-secret area that mere maids like them cannot access. That makes Nazuna curious, and the slay maids convince her to inspect Master Light's bedroom. Later, she knocks on the door, and to her surprise, May is already inside. May tells her to take her patrol duty elsewhere because the room is completely safe. But Nazuna curiously asks what she is doing all alone in their master's room when he is out for training. Embarrassed, May quickly claims she was cleaning her master's room because it goes against her honor as a maid to sit idly, even when their lord is away, so there is nothing left for her to check inside. However, Nazuna sneaks past her and gets genuinely impressed by her tidy work, though she cannot help but notice how it looks like someone kicked around, rolled all over in his bed, and sniffed the pillows. May tricks the bird brain by explaining that it is her ultimate bed-making technique, but she cannot reveal the method because it is top secret. Hearing that, Nazuna is seriously impressed and says May is truly the #1 maid for a reason, while May is quietly relieved that Nazuna does not have a brain. Before leaving, Nazuna passes on a message from the maid quartet in which they threaten the tyrannical head maid, demanding the right to clean Lord Light's bedroom as well, ending their letter with a long list of curse words. Nazuna is a bit confused by what the strange ending means, but May tells her not to worry her pretty little head about it, since it is her job to handle the maid quartet's problems. She also hushes Nazuna with 3 silver coins, which makes her very happy, and she quietly leaves to buy snacks with her pocket money. In town, Nazuna looks at all the tasty treats in front of her, but she ends up choosing her favorite buns and a bottle of fresh milk. Later, she finds Oyuki sitting on the terrace and asks her what she is doing. After Nazuna fantastically fails to interpret what her muse mean, Oyuki just tells her she came to deliver the finished map that May asked her to make. Hearing that, Nazuna ruthlessly slaps her on the back, telling her to say that from the start, and happily strolls away. Later in the throne room, she feels lonely without her master and rubs her face against his throne to feel closer to him. However, she presses too hard and accidentally snaps off one of the angel wings she was holding onto. Before there are any witnesses, she quickly grabs the broken piece off the floor, sticks it weakly back on the statue, and gets the hell out of there. Back in the training hall, Jack and Light throw their final punch and decide to head to the bath to wash off their exhaustion. There, Jack tells him that he is practically a walking weapon now, and that the number of people on the surface who can beat him is very small, but not zero. Light understands and states he will never let his guard down until he succeeds in his revenge. Meanwhile, in May's office, she stares the maid quartet down and asks if they know why she called them. When they play dumb, May repeats their message word for word, making the maids panic and sincerely apologize. May asks them what exactly they meant by all that, and the maids nervously play it off as their own way of showing respect to her. That seriously ticks May off, but what annoys her even more is that they sent their hate message through Nazuna instead of talking to her directly. The maids start whispering to each other that it was a bad idea from the very start, and May quickly gets tired of their nonsense. So she sentences them to clean the massive hall leading to the throne room as punishment, completely by hand. The maid quartet is utterly shocked and says that it is impossible to do, but May ignores their pleas and coldly answers that she will be leaving on a mission with their master soon, and she expects them to finish their work properly till she returns. Meanwhile, in town, Nazuna presses her face against a shop window, staring at the big black glove she desperately wants to buy. Just then, Ellie spots her and asks what she is doing. Nazuna excitedly tells her about the glove and then curiously asks why Ellie is not working right now. Ellie smugly replies that she finished her tasks so efficiently that she has free time on her hands, something a small-brained creature like her could never understand. In frustration, Nazuna says her brain is not small because she can do quick maths, but when Ellie challenges her to prove it, Nazuna proceeds to mess up every problem miserably. Ellie sighs and repeats that she really is dumb, and the two start fighting like little kids right in the middle of the town. In the end, Nezuna proudly says she has more important things to do, like patrolling the castle, but Ellie teases her that she will book a private room for her next meeting with Master Light, where she will have tea and enjoy some fun nighttime activities with him. Nezuna calls it unfair to enjoy tea alone with their master, and when Ellie smirks and asks if that is all she is mad about, Nezuna proves how empty her head is by asking if there is anything else she should be jealous of. Ellie genuinely cannot tell if she is too innocent or just plain dumb. With that, Nezuna cheerfully tells her to call for help anytime she needs her assistance and merrily walks away with a big smile. Back at the castle, one of the maids throws a tantrum about how unfair their punishment is, saying May's management truly is as evil as they claimed. However, they quickly give up after realizing there is literally nothing they can do against the monstrous head maid. As they daydream about cleaning their master's bedroom, sniffing his sheets, and licking his spoons, they start gossiping that May was Light's very first maid ever, and that he was all alone with her. As they wonder what kind of wild things a boy and a girl alone in the abyss did together in the dungeon, the maid quartet starts burning with jealousy and begins cursing May of pure hate. Right then, May appears from behind and calmly says she was on her way out when she suddenly heard the voices of a gang of maids passionately trying to curse her name. May makes it clear that Light was too busy studying books and mastering combat techniques, so they never had time for the outrageous things the maids were imagining. She admits she felt a little guilty for punishing them too harshly at first, but it seems she was wrong about that because the maids clearly have far too much time to waste. To fix that, she adds cleaning the throne room to their already brutal punishment. In the throne room, the maids complain non-stop while scrubbing the enormous floor, wondering if they will really be finished before morning comes. Just then, one of them accidentally breaks a wing clean off the same angel decoration that Nezuna already broke earlier. At that very moment, Nezuna lies in bed with deep satisfaction after a long day of protecting the castle's peace, though she really misses her beloved master and quietly wishes she could see him again the next day. The following morning, Light heads out into the abyss and finds his girls arguing loudly outside. Nezuna and the others are thrilled to see him, and while Ellie bickers with Nezuna as usual, Light reflexively starts tickling Oyuki's chin. The girls immediately get jealous that he always gives Oyuki special treatment, but Light explains that his hands just move on their own because she reminds him of a cute cat. With that, he tells the girls it is finally time to do what they came here for. Right on cue, a massive two-headed dog monster bursts out from the darkness, making Light tremble from head to toe as memories of his past trauma flash before his eyes, the time he was powerless against a monster like that. But his fear disappears instantly when Nezuna gets furious at the filthy mutt that dared to bare its fangs at her lord, and Ellie coldly suggests she will make sure their entire breed goes extinct both underground and on the surface. Their harsh words and overwhelming killing intent make the hellhound so terrified that it lowers its head in despair, losing its will to fight. Light feels sorry for it and orders them to stop, saying there is nothing this poor creature can do to him now. After gently apologizing to the doggo, he tells the group that May has just given him the green light to execute their long-awaited plan because their target has finally taken the bait. With that, he sets out to claim the revenge he has been waiting for all these years. Up on the surface, all the beast folk in the city of wolves clear the streets in awe as Garu makes his grand return. All of the beast folk go absolutely wild the moment they see him, and while the guys offer up their sisters in marriage, the ladies ask him to tell them about his heroics in private. Garu walks proudly through the crowd of cheering fans with a wide grin, but when he spots a starving human digging through the trash for food, he kicks the boy away and spits on his face for dirtying the streets with his disgusting existence. After that, he and his gang hit the bar, where everyone continues to praise and worship Garu for being way too cool. He laughs and tells them to go wild since he has a mountain of cash, which makes the other beastfolk fanboy even harder, one of them dreaming he can become just like him one day. Garu smugly brags that he has mastered the primal instinct all beastfolk are born with, and his senses are so sharp now that he can easily filter out trash jobs from the ones that pay big money. Hearing that, one of his goons nervously asks if it was the same for the job he did with the Concord of Tribes, but the others quickly shut him up since that was supposed to be an undercover mission. Garu explains his employer silenced him about it, but on the inside he relishes the memory of how satisfying it felt to earn the biggest payment of his life just for playing around and killing one weak human brat. He strongly believes Light must have died after getting blasted by that teleportation spell, but deep down he still wonders who this so-called master is who every government in the world seems desperate to find. He quickly dismisses the thought when his instincts warn him that digging too deep might be dangerous. At that exact moment, May enters the room and politely apologizes for interrupting his celebration, asking if he is Garu himself. She respectfully asks if he is truly the great Garu, the former member of the legendary Concord of Tribes, and even though his goons grow offended by a human girl daring to approach their boss, Garu decides to hear her out. May introduces herself as Lord Light's most loyal servant and explains that she has been searching for her master for a very long time. While Garu wonders if that scrawny twerp could really have been a lord, Mei calmly continues that her master comes from a long, noble bloodline. He refuses to believe her and calls her a liar, but Mei says she cannot share the details and asks him not to pry further into it. Hearing that, Garu thinks it over for a moment and realizes that if the girl truly is not lying, this might be a solid opportunity to earn a huge amount of money from a noble family. Then Mei tells him she went on a long journey to discover what really happened and recently learned that her master joined the conqueror of tribes only to lose his life on a mission deep within the abyss. Tired of her boring story, Garu rudely cuts her off and tells her to say what that has to do with him. So Mei emotionally requests that he escort her to the very spot where her lord perished. Garu initially refuses until Mei opens a box revealing 3 shiny slabs of gold, instantly making every dog in the room drool with greed. Still, Garu is cunning, and he instantly suspects this is a trap. But he believes a single frail human girl could never do anything to him, so he happily plays along. He agrees to take the job, saying he is doing it to honor his best pal from the party. Hearing that, Mei thanks him with tears in her eyes, unaware that Garu plans to escort her safely to her master's grave, and then viciously rip her to shreds right on top of it. When they finally reach the place, Garu lies that Light was torn apart by a swarm of monsters, and they never found his body because he was caught in a teleportation trap. The news hits Mei so hard that she drops to her knees in grief. Garu smirks, thinking the girl from an inferior race really is as naive as she looks. Just before he jumps her from behind, he regrets that he failed to protect his best friend, even though he is so strong. Mei suddenly changes her tone. When she starts describing all the bad things Garu's party did to Light, the wolf instinctively jumps back, unable to understand how she knows all that. He immediately suspects she is a spy and demands to know who hired her, but Mei calmly says she serves Lord Light. The moment she releases her magic power, all the dogs and even Garu himself tremble in fear. Just one look in her eyes tells him he is a dead wolf. But before Mei can do anything, Light appears and orders her to stand down, saying he will be the one to punish Garu. Garu's goons panic and beg for orders, but the wolf man just stands frozen in disbelief that the little twerp is still alive. Light greets him with a calm smile and states he came here to pay him back in full, with 3 years of interest on top. However, Garu bursts out laughing, mocking the level 15 brat for thinking he can be a level 150 master like him. The wolf says Light made a huge mistake coming here because now he will kill him and take his body to the surface to prove his strength, guaranteeing his promotion to Beast King. Hearing that, Light is surprised Garu is not curious why someone as powerful as Mei serves him. But Garu scoffs that he is not scared since they are just 2 puny humans facing a whole pack of beasts who are all over level 100. On his command, all of his men charge at Light to tear him to pieces, but they are the ones who get shredded instead. While the dogs stand frozen in shock, Light thanks Mei and calmly tells her to seal off the exit for him. At that moment, all of the dogs panic, and Garu orders his men to stop shaking because it was probably just a cheap trap. He claims it is impossible for an inferior human to ever kill a beast folk. Light sighs in disappointment that Garu still sees humans as weak, but Garu yells back that humans are pitiful creatures with little mana, and says he will show what real power looks like, proudly displaying his level for everyone to see. Light understands that the low-level cap for humans is why other races look down on them. So he asks Garu to explain how a weak human managed to behead 2 of his lackeys. Garu growls and tells the brat to stop acting cocky after using a magic tool. The calm, smug look in Light's eyes makes him furious, so Garu and his pack charge at him together. However, Light moves faster than their eyes can follow, and before they even realize, the fight is already over. That really grinds Garu's gears, and desperate to avoid losing to a human, he pulls out a glowing magic stone and summons his familiar, a level 500 ice wolf named Fenrir. With a wicked grin, he tells Light to get on all fours and beg Lord Garu for his life if he wants to live. However, Light simply stands still and says he will not move an inch, inviting him to take the first shot. Seeing that calm smile, Garu loses his temper and orders Fenrir to use all its mana to fire a magic howl, thinking it will turn Light into ashes. But when the dust clears, Garu goes silent when he realizes Light is perfectly fine, as if nothing happened. Light asks if Garu feels embarrassed, and while all the beasts stare in confusion, he decides to show them Fenrir's true final form. With a wave of his hand, he summons his own familiar, a level 9000 Fenrir that blows a small icy breath at Garu's beast, freezing and shattering it into 1,000 shards. Garu is unable to believe Light commands such a powerful creature, but Light admits he could have crushed Garu's little puppy himself if he felt like it. After that, he reveals his own level, shocking everyone since humans should not be able to go past level 100. Garu calls Light an imposter, pointing out his body has not aged a single year since back then. But Light calmly explains he uses a magic item to stop himself from aging, so that he never forgets all the pain and suffering from back then. In that moment, Garu realizes it no longer matters who the boy truly is. He's a dead wolf either way. Desperate, he drops to all fours and begs his best buddy for mercy, asking him to remember the good times they shared. He even blames the greedy dogs behind him for scheming to attack Mei. Hearing that, Light asks Garu to confess who this master the government is after really is, but Garu shamefully admits he has no idea who that person really is. When Light calmly asks why he tried to kill him even after knowing he was not a master, Garu quietly looks up with guilty puppy eyes full of shame. Just then, his goons start lying that they knew about it, so Mei punishes them by slicing them into thin beef cutlets for the heinous crime of lying to her master. Seeing that brutal scene, Garu almost has a panic attack, but he still listens quietly when Light asks for his opinion, asking if he could win a war on the surface with his current strength. Garu stutters in fear, trying to explain that even someone as powerful as Lord Light might dominate at first, but a single person would still struggle against whole nations with years of stored weapons and magic tools ready for war. Light seems satisfied with that honest answer and agrees that there is a limit to what one super soldier can truly achieve. Then he tells Garu to answer his next question after they move to another place. With that, he uses a teleport card and brings Garu to his throne room, where countless knights, monsters, and maids stand on both sides of the long red carpet. Garu watches helplessly in disbelief as every one of them bows in perfect sync to their lord. After Light sits on his throne, he commands all of his soldiers to display their levels, each member reaching high into the thousands. Light reveals that these are all the powerful units he gathered in the last 3 years, and the sight is so terrifying that Garu's fur instantly turns white from dread. Then Light asks again if Garu still believes he has any chance of winning against all the nations on the surface, but Garu is so terrified that he cannot even say a single word. Light congratulates him on experiencing true despair, far more painful than death. With tears welling up in his eyes, Garu realizes that his party unknowingly gave birth to a monster that will one day destroy the entire world. When he asks Light what he is trying to become, Light replies that the world is hiding something from him for a reason he doesn't know, and that reason will decide if he uses his blessing to become an angel who spreads fortune or a demon lord who wipes every nation off the surface from existence. A few days later, Light prays at his parents' grave in his home village, which was destroyed after he vanished into the abyss. The only good news is that the bodies of his siblings were never found, so he hopes they are still alive somewhere. After he finishes praying, his knight in golden armor reminds him that they should get moving if they do not want to sleep outside on their first day back on the surface. His casual tone toward their master makes Nemumu furious, and Light honestly cannot tell if the two are best friends or sworn enemies. Gold lectures her to stop whining and acting so uptight all the time, asking if she would not prefer to sleep in a worn, comfy bed instead. Nemumu proudly replies that she would sleep anywhere as long as she is by Lord Light's side. Tired of their endless bickering, Light tells them to worry about sleeping later and focus on gathering information about their enemies on the surface so they can understand what they are up against. Besides that, he believes his village was destroyed because the Federation suspected he was a master. His power flares up as he declares he will turn the world into hell if the reason for keeping this master's secret caused so many innocent deaths without good cause. When he finally calms down, Gold advises him to keep his power under control while they are in the city. Light apologizes and hides his face with a mask, quietly promising that his parents will never be forgotten. As they fly toward town, Nemumu accidentally calls him Lord Light, so Gold warns her to be careful. Light adds that she should call him Dark while they are exploring the surface to hide his true identity. Light says that he plans to raise his rank by registering as Dark at the guild and start doing quests to connect with the higher ranks. Once the city of Dagas comes into view, they decide to walk the rest of the way on foot through the forest below. Gold's shining armor gleams under the sun, and when they pass by a group of thugs harassing a cab driver and his son, Gold's sparkly armor instantly catches their eyes. The thugs try to rob them, but Light's SS rank units quickly tie the fools up before they even blink, leaving the driver and his son staring in shock. Light thanks the driver, a man named Colonel, for giving him a free ride. The man's son excitedly says he has never seen humans beat up dwarves that fast and calls the pretty elf lady and golden knight super cool. But Nemumu proudly adds that her lord is even cooler. When Colonel asks if they are a famous adventurer party, Light surprises him by saying they are actually heading to Dagas to register for the first time. Hearing that, Colonel says they are headed in the right direction, since Dagas sits on the border between the dwarf and human kingdoms, right next to the elf kingdom. He explains that the dungeon there is so rich with treasures that the city attracts adventurers from all over the land despite all the political problems. That includes many human adventurers too, so Colonel runs is successful in business with their support. Light gets off the carriage right outside Dagas, explaining that he already knows the way to the guild thanks to the nice man's guidance. Before leaving, Colonel introduces himself properly and invites Light to stay at his inn if he plans to spend the night. As they walk through the busy streets of the city, Gold tells Nemumu to stop staring at everything, or she will get separated, but she snaps back that it is impossible to get lost when his shiny armor keeps blinding her eyes. When they reach the guild, they find it packed with adventurers of every race. There are many humans there too, but they quickly move aside when a demon walks by. Light feels a little sad that humans are oppressed by the other races even after all this time. During the registration, Nemumu starts raging when the receptionist assigns Light an F rank since all newbies start from the bottom. He desperately tries to explain that he is the strongest being on the planet, but the receptionist flatly refuses. Seeing that, Light apologizes on her behalf and calmly asks the lady to complete his registration. Later, outside, Nemumu cries a river in shame that her master had to apologize for her behavior. Gold casually agrees, saying she looked like a total idiot in front of everyone. Light tells him to stop teasing her, but he replies that he is spitting facts, which makes Nemumu even sadder. With that, they head to Colonel's Inn, where the man tells Light not to hesitate in asking for anything he needs. Light accepts the offer and explains that he wants to rent the entire top floor for a month and says no staff members should be allowed to go there during their stay. As payment, he drops a bag full of gold coins on the counter, but Colonel politely refuses to accept money from the people who saved his and his son's lives. Light insists it is compensation for his unusual request, so Colonel humbly accepts it with gratitude. On the top floor, Light activates silence and detection jamming cards to secure the room, then tells his companions to relax since no one can spy on them anymore. At that moment, Mu asks why he insists on pretending to be an adventurer on the surface when he could simply command his army to handle things for him. Her words make Light furious, and he questions whether she is trying to take him out his own revenge plan. His power flares violently, shaking the entire building even though Nemumu apologizes again and again for her foolish words. He finally calms down when Gold unexpectedly praises his courage for putting himself in danger and taking revenge with his own two hands. After that, Light apologizes to Nemumu for losing his temper. Nemumu insists she made a big mistake and says that she would like to swear her loyalty to him again. Hearing that, Light gets a little embarrassed because the ritual involves showing respect by kissing her master's feet. Seeing the pleased look on Nemumu's face, Gold calls her a dirty girl for enjoying it so much. Seeing that, Light quietly slips away as the two begin arguing like mortal enemies again. The next day, the party heads to the dungeon where everyone's attention is instantly drawn to Gold's shiny armor. Light feels that the sharp contrast works with his dark persona, but he also worries that Gold might stand out a bit too much. Outside the dungeon, Gold points out the unusually long line and notices that none of the adventurers are elves. Light explains that this is a sign that the dwarf and elf kingdoms are currently on bad terms. Nemumu praises his profound knowledge, but he asks if she really needs to hug him so tightly. She insists it is her job to protect her master's back at all times. Just then, another party cuts into the line in front of a group of kids, ruining the mood for everyone. Light notices that the hooded trio looks skilled, but the man in green has the strong aura of an experienced warrior. He hears the party of kids whisper nervously about whether they should confront them, but they are too scared to do anything. At that moment, Light steps forward and calmly says it is pretty uncool to cut in line. The elf coldly stares at him and asks if he knows who he's talking to, but Light casually replies he obviously doesn't, since the guy is literally hiding his face under a hood. He adds that it would be even more embarrassing if a famous person got caught cutting in line. Gold bursts out laughing at his bold remark, and Nemumu bluntly calls the elf too dumb to understand how lines work. Frustrated, the elf nearly draws his sword, but his companion quickly advises him not to cause a public scene. After that, the other adventurers cheer for Light, and the children thank him for stepping up when they were too scared to act. Light says it's not a big deal since cutting in line ruins things for everyone. The leader's sister Maya sweetly comments that they were lucky to have nice people behind them. Just then, the blonde kid, Jimra, asks Gold if his armor is made of real gold, but Nemumu instantly blurts out that it's fake, and that only a moron would make armor from such a soft metal. Before Jimra can say anything more offensive, his party leader shuts him up. Light explains that Gold's shiny armor represents his dedication to knighthood, though its real purpose is to attract attention to their group. After that, the young leader Wardy asks Light if his party is exploring the Daggest dungeon for the first time, because the dungeon is far larger than most others, so adventurers often bring plenty of equipment and supplies before heading inside. With that, their turn finally comes and they step into the dungeon. Nemumu is surprised by how different it feels compared to the Abyss, and after a short walk, they reach an open area that looks like a world of its own, filled with strange and lively animals. Gold reports that there is no one nearby, so Light calmly pulls out his rare cards to conceal their presence and allows everyone to soar through the air once again. Meanwhile, below, the elf named Kato furiously cuts down a group of unfortunate orcs to vent his anger, cursing non-stop about how some kids dared to insult the youngest and strongest swordsman of the Elf Kingdom. He is the descendant of a legendary hero who was a master known far and wide for his extraordinary talent and countless titles. His dark elf partner, Yanak, tries to calm him down and reminds him to save his strength for the trolls on the next floor, but that only irritates Kato even more. Kato is furious that even though he was born to a master, no one respects him because his level is capped at a mere 1500. Yanak gently says that his level is still far beyond what most elves ever reach, but Kato snaps back, saying it is pathetic for someone of his lineage to be stuck at such a low number. Yanak claims to understand his pain because even his own people never recognize the brilliance of his research. Hearing that, Kato scoffs and tells him to show it by helping him level up if he really is such a genius. The sly dark elf grins and agrees, saying that they are in a mutually beneficial relationship. so he is happy to support his dear partner's growth. Kato clicks his tongue in annoyance and walks ahead, deciding he will get rid of the untrustworthy dark elf once he is done leveling up. After Light and his team gather enough magic crystal to prove their progress to the guild, they take to the sky once more to return to the inn. Along the way, Light spots the party of kid adventurers fighting goblins below. They manage to slay all the goblins, but he instantly notices they made a serious mistake. The kids do not even realize when Light lands right behind them. He tells them it is a basic rule to never lose sight of the enemy, but it is just as important to guard their backs. They notice that he saved their supporter Maya from a snake that would have paralyzed her, leaving their party wide open. The kids bow to show their gratitude, but Nemumu warns Light that something powerful is approaching from the forest. At first, the kids panic and start to run when they see a massive pack of gray wolves charging out from the trees, creatures that are never supposed to leave this forest. They try to run away, but Light tells them to stay calm, and the wolves rush past without even glancing their way. As Morty wonders aloud what could have scared them off, a huge figure tears through the forest with incredible speed, which turns out to be the Forsyth mantis. The boy cannot believe what he is seeing because that species went extinct more than 10 years ago. He quickly asks Mia to use her magic as a distraction so they can escape alive. Hearing that, Light asks if they are fine with him killing the monster since they plan on running away, and his companions agree that 500-level bugs should make for a decent fight. The boy stresses that they have to escape and report the ferocious creature to the guild before it takes any lives, but Light tells him to relax even as the giant mantis charges straight at them. Gold rushes in first and blocks the mantis's claw with his sword, but the monster's claws are so tough that his attacks do absolutely no damage, forcing him to retreat in frustration. While Nemumu calls him a sore loser, Light decides to test how the mantis will react to his fireball spell. However, the big bug simply swats the spell right back at him like it's nothing. Seeing that, the poor kid panics and begs Mia to help them with a spell, but Mia is too excited watching the amazing combat class magic Light just used and is annoyed that no one appreciates it. Gold tells the kids to take a good look at how real knights fight by watching him, and his first lesson is that using shields to defend is not the only way to fight. When the mantis attacks him from behind, he spins around and counters at the perfect time, completely shattering its claw with one clean strike. He continues with lesson 2, saying to always use your sword when the enemy is vulnerable, slicing off one of the mantis' legs in a single motion. After that, Light takes his turn and shoots multiple fireballs that the mantis slaps away just like before, but this time they suddenly change direction and strike its back instead. Light controls 30 fireballs at once like homing missiles to bombard the mantis from all directions and then detonates them from within, breaking off its legs and burning deep into its shell. As he prepares to finish it off, the mantis panics and tries to flee, but Light casts a wall of fire to block its escape route without any incantation, which makes Maya jump up and down in amazement since even elves cannot do that. With nowhere left to go, the mantis spreads its wings and flies into the sky to run, but Nemu instantly closes the distance on Light's command and tears it apart with one swift strike. Nemumu looks quite satisfied with her cool display, but Gold lets out a disappointed sigh because she ruined the parts they could have sold for money. Nemumu instantly regrets her mistake and apologizes profusely, while the kids stand there in silence, shocked that the 3 adventurers just took down a Forsyth mantis. A few moments later, Wardy finds a giant purple magic stone, and Gold is relieved that some idiot did not chop it into 1,000 pieces. When Light cheerfully says they can now submit the crystal to raise their rank, the boy asks if they are a famous adventurer party, because if they need such a large magic stone to rank up, he guesses they must be at least A rank or even S rank. Light shocks the poor kids once again by revealing they are just F rank newbies who started yesterday. After that, Mia summons a water ball for them to wash their hands, and Light gratefully accepts, thanking the nice little girl for using her precious mana on him. The kids thank them again for saving their lives, and Morty asks if Light would like to stay at his camp for the night, even though he only has a shabby tent and some snacks to offer. Light politely declines, but the boy insists since going out at night is dangerous and his sister is eager to talk to him about his powerful magic. During dinner, Maya compliments Light after he told her he is a genius because both his parents were magicians. He compliments her in return, but she humbly admits she is still far from using tactical class magic like him. When her brother asks what the big deal is, she gets fired up and gives him a lecture about how single target spells like Fireball are combat class, while wide area spells like Wall of Fire are tactical class, and the most powerful ones are strategic class spells that require a group of magicians to cause things like tsunamis or earthquakes. She explains that humans cannot use advanced spells as easily as other races, which makes Light's silent casting so unprecedented that it could make him a legend among humans. Seeing his sister fangirl like an idiot, her brother tells her to calm down and admits that magic aside, he understands that Mr. Light is a very kind person. He also reminds her that she is a talented mage who is referred to the Duchy's Academy of Magic, so he is sure she will be casting big spells in no time. Hearing that, Light asks if that is the country founded together by all 9 races, and Gold finds it impressive that she was invited to such a prestigious academy. However, the boy explains that she could not join after they lost their parents to an epidemic. That is when he formed a party with his friends and started adventuring to earn enough money to send Maya to the academy. When Light sees how much they care for each other, it reminds him of his own sister, and he assures them that Mia will definitely succeed because she is very talented. Maya thinks he is just being nice, but Light makes her blush when he says he truly believes in her potential. After that, her brother asks why Light decided to become an adventurer. So Light explains that he lost his parents in a house fire and tells them that his companions are traveling with him to find a potion that can heal the terrible scars he suffered from the flames. Everyone goes quiet after hearing that, but Jimra suddenly shoots up with excitement and blurts if Gold is Nemumu's ex-boyfriend, which instantly sends her flying off the rails in denial. Gold agrees and says he is only interested in mature ladies who are stunning enough to match his golden aura. Somewhere else in the dungeon, Yanak compliments Kato on swiftly taking down another orc. But Kato is frustrated that his legendary blade, Grandius, is being wasted on trash mobs. Yanak calmly assures him that these ingredients are essential for his research to overcome every race's level cap. After collecting the last orc sample, he adds that the next main ingredient will be humans, something that immediately grabs Kato's full attention. 2 weeks later, Light's party becomes famous as the Black Muffly in the whole city, and he regularly brings in rare materials, which makes even the cold receptionist's attitude toward them do a complete 180. Outside, Light walks through town with satisfaction as all the other adventurers recognize his party. Just then, 2 men approach and ask if they are Black Muffly, the name everyone in town started using for them. Namumu immediately draws her dagger and orders him to get to the point. So the guy named Sullivan introduces himself and his partner Gilbert. He explains that they heard rumors the group hunted down a 4-scythe mantis, though Gilbert doubts it, claiming they spent years searching for one without success. Namumu questions if he is calling her lord a liar, but Sullivan quickly clarifies that they came to cheer them on. He says many humans are glad to see someone finally giving real competition to the arrogant races who look down on them. After they leave, Light overhears a few non-human adventurers ahead of him calling his accomplishments lies, but Gold confidently says they can shut them up with cold, hard results. Inside the dungeon, Light flies his way to the 5th floor and spots the party of kids, so he drops by to say hi. He is surprised their paths did not cross in 2 weeks, but Mia's brother reminds him that this dungeon is exceptionally big. Still, he is happy they met again because Mia has something she prepared for Light. The girl shyly steps forward and hands him a small shelf filled with a special ointment for burns, a family remedy her late grandmother taught her to make to help with the pain. Light is left speechless by the gesture and thanks her from the bottom of his heart. He believes she deserves something in return, so he summons a double S-rank bracelet and offers it to her. Mia hesitates to accept, but when he says it is a gift, she promises to treasure it for the rest of her life. Later that night, Namumu asks Light if it was really a good idea to trade such a rare item for a useless homemade cream, but Gold tells her to be less materialistic and believes their lord made a fine choice for a girl like her, explaining that the bracelet can create small miracles when the user wishes with all their heart. On the 5th floor, which is completely covered in thick snow, Light orders the 2 to hunt Yetis for him and teleports back to his throne room, where May and the others are already waiting. After May serves him a fresh cup of tea, he asks the girls how much longer their revenge plan will take, and Ellie replies that she is very close to finishing it. Hearing that, Light is impressed and teases that maybe there was no need for him to come back at all if she is handling everything so perfectly, making her blush like a ripe tomato. He smiles and tells her to ask for anything she needs, also praising May and Oyuki to keep up their excellent work. Nazuna feels left out, so she excitedly asks what her job will be with Sparkling Eyes, so Light orders her to keep everyone safe since there is no telling when some dangerous supervillain they are unaware of might appear. Ellie asks if she is really happy with just that simple task, but Nazuna cheerfully tells her to hurry up and finish hers because she cannot protect anyone until Ellie is done. Annoyed, Ellie says she is already giving her all to make everything perfect, since Lord Light deserves nothing less than the best. Light smiles and looks forward to seeing the look of despair on Sasha's pretty face when the time finally comes. Back in the dungeon, Sullivan asks Gilbert what he thinks about Black Motley's magician supposedly using tactical class magic. Gilbert admits it might not be fake news since the witness was a human girl, and wonders if the magician could even be a legendary hero. Sullivan hopes they become the legends who overthrow this rotten society where the other races treat humans like dirt, and then steps away for a moment to take a pee break. By the time he returns, Gilbert's severed head is on the ground, and Kato remarks that it is insulting for an elf to wait for a human insect to come back. Sullivan tries to stay calm and think of an escape plan, and Kato grows furious at his silence. He taunts the human, asking if he is deaf or something because even an inferior should react when his friend's corpse is right before him. Sullivan refuses to rise to the rage bait, instead thinking desperately of how to escape and report to the guild. With that thought, he apologizes silently to his fallen friends and throws a smoke bomb, knowing that even the elf's powerful magic is useless if he cannot see his target. He runs through the dungeon confidently since he is familiar with every twist and turn, but he is suddenly hit hard across the head. When he turns around in shock, he sees Kato floating after him on a magic disc. Yannick knocks him unconscious and sighs that he specifically asked for living humans, yet Kato killed every single one except this one. Kato shrugs and tells him to make do with the one he has, but Yannick mutters that a successful experiment always requires dozens of failures, so Kato promises to leave the rest of the garbage alive as long as they don't dare to fight back. Hearing that, the mad scientist laughs that even worthless trash like humans can still become valuable materials for his research, and soon the entire world will understand what the role of humans truly is. As the story shifts, Imu has gotten herself into a fight with the receptionist. She demands that she raise her master's rank immediately. The poor receptionist trembles under her fury and tries to reason with her, explaining that the guild has already made a huge exception by double promoting him from F to D rank. Namimu, however, refuses to listen and insists that her Lord Dark deserves nothing less than an extra S rank. But she still won't back down. The receptionist comes up with an idea and tells them that his rank can be raised again if they manage to accomplish another major task. Light asks what kind of feat it is and receives the job request. Later that night, the three sit together discussing the mission, which involves capturing a serial killer who has been terrorizing the area. It seems like a good opportunity to rank up, but the issue is that they have absolutely no leads on the culprit. Gold suggests that Light should use his Gacha to draw a card that could help locate the killer, but Light explains that the cards he gets are completely randomized, so relying on that would be smart. In the middle of their discussion, a sudden portal opens up out of nowhere and Mia falls through it, only to be caught by Light just in time. She's covered in wounds, and the bracelet Light gave her snaps apart the moment she lands. Light carries her to bed and casts Heal. He then uses his SR card Hypnosis to peek into her memories. Wardy's party had been warned about a serial killer roaming the area. Maya told her brother they didn't stand a chance since the murderer could perform multiple spell castings at once, and even the adventurers who brought the warning had fled, shouting at them to do the same. Wardy led his team to retreat, but Nike had already fallen. They pushed as far as they could before stopping to catch their breath. Though Wardy knew camping there was nothing less than a suicide. Just when things couldn't get worse, Kato and the Dark Elf appeared. Unaware of the threat, Wardy's group shared the news about the ongoing murders, advising them to run while they could. Kato listened calmly, then smirked, saying he finally understood why the number of adventurers had dropped so drastically. The mad scientist beside him laughed and thanked them for the useful intel. Before anyone could react, the elves started mumbling that they should have covered it up better, and as Wardy looked at them in confusion, Kato drew his blade and said coldly that it was game over for them. Wardy's party freezes in terror when they realize that the two standing before them are the serial killers everyone has been talking about. Wardy and the other two boys shout for Mia to run while they hold the killers off, but Kato's expression twists with fury at their defiance and he snarls for them to know their place before slashing Wardy across the chest. Even so, the remaining two charge at him with desperate courage, only to be cut down in the same brutal fashion. Maya's vision blurs with tears as her brother, bleeding heavily, forces himself to stand once more and urges her to run. Jimra and the last boy stagger back to their feet too, and rush towards the elf who effortlessly cuts them down again. Maya screams echo while Yannick sighs and reminds Kato that he has just ruined perfectly good human test subjects. Kato scoffs, saying it is not his fault if weaklings insist on wasting his time by fighting back. Yannick complains that Kato has already slaughtered too many and left him with almost no one to experiment on, then both turn their attention toward Maya. The Dark Elf muses aloud that human mages are actually quite valuable, and Kato smirks, vowing to be more careful with his temper this time. He then glances at her trembling form and asks Yannick if he has time to indulge in some dirty fun. Yannick, disgusted, mutters that he is not interested and walks away. Maya backs up with her voice shaking as she begs the man to stay away, but Kato only laughs, declaring that she should feel honored to be used by the legendary hero of the future. He tells her that she should be happy, but just then Maya's brother gets back up. Yannick gets impressed by Wardy and tells Kato that he definitely needs this human alive as he claims him as his prime specimen. Wardy smiles as he looks at his sister and tells her to run away. While she finally runs, Yannick shouts at Kato to run and catch her. Kato finds it unpleasant that he's being bossed around while he is the boss, and he pushes Wardy aside. Yannick reminds Kato that he needs his prime specimen alive. Wardy then pushes his brain to its limits and recalls what Gold told him about battles being all about creativity and skill. He puts the knowledge to use and slings his sword towards the elf, which slices his hair, and then follows that with his shield, using it as an attacking weapon and pushing Kato off balance, making him fall to the ground. He laughs over his achievement and calls the guy a loser. Hearing this, Kato loses his cool once again and uses his sword skill, stabbing the poor boy right through the middle of his chest. As Kato comes after the boy again, Yannick steps forward and reminds his master that the mage specimen has run away. and he must catch her unless word of what they have been doing gets out. Kato grinds his teeth, but he does just that and quickly catches up with Maya, blocking her with an attack in front of her. Kato brags about how he can create multiple blades and control them at will because of his treasure called Grandius, which is a Phantasma-class legendary sword. He uses his swords as steps to descend while Maya desperately hopes for a miracle and summons an ice sword, but Kato effortlessly counters it and reminds her that she already knows it is no match for him. Maya runs again, clinging to the thought that if she could just reach Mr. Dark, he might help her, yet Kato trips her down mid-run. He keeps telling her to give up and let him do what he wants, but she refuses to yield, calling him nothing like a true legendary hero, such as Mr. Dark, and accusing him of being a coward who picks on the weak. The words sting as Kato remembers being laughed at and insulted by the elves after being kicked out of the prestigious party known as the White Knights because he could never rise to their level. When Maya calls him a spineless loser, his anger spirals out of control and he keeps shouting at her to shut up while striking again and again with his sword skills that she clearly cannot endure. Even as she struggles, Maya's determination burns bright as she vows to survive for the ones who gave her a chance, and in that moment, the bracelet on her wrist suddenly activates. Realizing what has happened, our boy clutches the same bracelet tightly in pain and orders his team to move out. Meanwhile, Yanak is trying to save his test subjects, but by the time he checks on them, Wardy has already drawn his final breath. He regrets losing such a valuable specimen, and just then, Kato arrives. When Yanak asks if he caught the girl, the elf looks around confused. Yanak mocks him for losing track of a mere child despite being a former member of the White Knights, but Kato defends himself, saying it wasn't his fault since the girl vanished into thin air. He insists there was no way for him to know she had a teleportation item, though Yanak doubts that a human could ever possess something so rare and costly. The Dark Elf begins to panic, realizing that if word about their actions reaches the guild, the Elven Queendom will definitely find out. He warns that once they learn Kato has stolen the sword Grandius, their fate will be sealed. Hearing this, Kato wets his pants, knowing that the White Knights and the Infernal Captain would surely come after him. The Captain alone is beyond level 3000, while every knight under him stands above 2000, leaving Kato with no chance to survive. Yanak tries to calm him down, saying they just need to complete his research so he can help Kato surpass his level limit, which would solve everything. But just as they get their hopes back up, our boy suddenly appears before them and declares that they are going nowhere. Kato grows uneasy because he knows no one could sneak up on a level 1500 like him, and Light learns that only Elio survived while the other two boys are gone. Yanak is stunned that Gold carried Elio away without him even noticing, and Light immediately uses Heal to patch the boy's wounds. He then asks with anger what those kids did to meet such a fate, and he admits he had imagined growing up with them as friends if the world were not so unjust. Light then turns towards the elves and he vows that he will make them pay for what they have done. Yanak tries to bargain, pointing out that he is the one who patched the boy up, while Kato still walks around full of himself, but Light calmly tells the elves that he has taken the girl and that he will not report this to the guild. Kato erupts into mad laughter at that and claims the only solution is to get rid of all of them so they need not worry. Boasting about being a legendary hero, Light snaps into a raw kind of madness and swears he will tear Kato apart with his own hands, and he tells Nemumu and Gold to stay out of his fight as he steps forward. Kato doesn't realize who he's up against and charges straight toward our boy, but no matter how many times he swings, every single attack gets blocked by Light's staff. Yanak can't believe his eyes since no human should be able to stand toe-to-toe against a legendary sword and an elf. Kato keeps slashing wildly in madness, but Light punches him in the gut and sends him flying back. Light mocks him, saying he had hoped the guy would be better than this because at this rate, he might accidentally end up murdering him too quickly. Enraged, Kato activates Grandius and summons countless swords of different attributes that rain down on Light. Yet Light effortlessly dodges every single one, and even when Kato tries to catch him off guard midair, he's already sensed it and blocks the attack with ease. The spectacle leaves the Dark Elf completely speechless as he struggles to believe what he's witnessing. Kato accuses Light of cheating for dressing up like a mage while fighting like a warrior, but Light calmly replies that he really is a mage, though the elf refuses to believe it. Light then conjures ice swords without even chanting, and Kato desperately tries to counter, but all his attacks get blocked by the shimmering blades. Light wields them with perfect mastery, even spinning them around himself in a tornado-like barrier. Kato still refuses to accept defeat and holds up his blade high, shouting that it was loved by the master of the old. Hearing that word, Light narrows his eyes and asks him what he knows about this master, and Kato laughs, declaring that he was born with the blood of a master flowing in him, which is why he is known as a submaster. That's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe for the channel. Thanks for watching, and it'll see you next time.